Right now, someone is plotting against you. They're not doing it out of malice. They're doing it because the world is a chessboard, and you're either moving the pieces or you are the piece being moved. This isn't motivational fluff. This isn't feel-good psychology. This is the brutal reality that most people refuse to face. While you're worried about being nice, being fair, and being liked, others are studying the game. They're learning the rules you were never taught. Machiavelli wrote 500 years ago, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." He understood something that modern society desperately wants you to forget. Power isn't about being the best person. It's about being the most strategic person. You've been conditioned to believe that playing fair leads to success, that working hard guarantees respect, that being genuine creates loyalty. These are beautiful lies told to keep you controllable. The harsh truth? The world rewards those who understand human psychology, not those who ignore it. Look around you. Who gets promoted? The hardest worker or the best politician? Who gets the girl? The nicest guy or the one who creates intrigue? Who builds empires? The most moral leader or the most calculated one? Every day you choose. You can keep playing by the rules that handicap you, or you can learn the game as it's actually played. You can remain naive about human nature, or you can master it. You can stay powerless, or you can become untouchable. The 10 lessons you're about to learn aren't theory. They're psychological weapons that have shaped kings, destroyed enemies, and built dynasties. They work because they tap into the deepest parts of human nature, the parts we pretend don't exist. Comment below. Do you play to win or play to be liked? Because after today you'll understand why you can't do both. She was talking, and talking, and talking some more. Sarah had cornered him at the office party, desperately trying to convince him that she deserved the promotion. Every word she spoke weakened her position. Every justification revealed her insecurities. Every plea exposed her desperation. He said nothing, just listened, nodded occasionally, asked one simple question, "Tell me more." By the end of the conversation, Sarah had revealed her salary expectations, her backup plans, her fears about the competing candidate, and even her willingness to relocate, all while he shared nothing. 3 days later, he got the promotion she wanted. This is the first brutal lesson. Your mouth is your enemy. Every word you speak is intelligence you give away. Every explanation is a weakness you expose. Every justification is a power you surrender. Machiavelli observed, "The lion cannot protect itself from traps, and the fox cannot defend itself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves." Silence makes you both a fox and a lion. Silent, you set traps. Quiet, you intimidate. However, here's the psychological twist that most people miss. Silence creates a vacuum that others feel compelled to fill. It's not just about keeping your cards close. It's about forcing others to show theirs. When you stay quiet during negotiations, they start negotiating against themselves. When you don't respond to accusations, the accuser starts doubting their own position. When you refuse to explain yourself, people create explanations that are far more impressive than the truth. Think about the most powerful people you know. Notice how little they actually say. Notice how much weight their words carry when they finally speak. This isn't a coincidence. This is a strategy. The talkative person believes they're building relationships. They're actually building dependencies. The quiet person is seen as mysterious, thoughtful, and authoritative. The loud person is seen as insecure, desperate, and controllable. Here's what silence gives you that talking never can. It forces others to project their fears, desires, and assumptions onto you. They don't know your weaknesses because you haven't shared them. They don't know your limits because you haven't revealed them. They don't know your desperation because you haven't displayed it. Your silence becomes their uncertainty. Your mystery becomes their fascination. Your restraint becomes their respect. Start practicing now. In your next meeting, say half as much as you planned. In your next argument, let them exhaust their ammunition while you reload. In your next negotiation, let them negotiate with themselves. Watch what happens. Watch how they start second-guessing their position when you don't validate their points. Watch how they reveal more information, trying to fill the silence. Watch how your perceived value rises as your words decrease. The weak fill silence with noise. The powerful fill silence with presence. But that's just the beginning, because silence only works when combined with the next lesson. The truth is, she was an average employee. Punctual, competent, unremarkable. But Lisa understood something her more talented colleagues didn't. Truth is irrelevant. Perception is everything. She started arriving early and leaving late, not to do more work, but to be seen arriving early and leaving late. She began CCing executives on routine emails, creating an impression of importance. She volunteered for visible projects and delegated the actual work to others. Within 6 months, Lisa was promoted over colleagues who outperformed her by every objective measure. Why? Because perception defeated reality. This is the second brutal lesson that will separate you from the masses. People don't respond to what you are. They respond to what they believe you are. Master this and you master everything. Machiavelli understood this completely. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Think about brands you pay premium prices for. Are they really better, or do they just seem better? Think about leaders you respect. Do you respect their actual competence or their projected confidence? Think about people you find attractive. Is it their physical features, or how they carry themselves? Reality is complex, messy, and hard to evaluate. Perception is simple, clean, and immediately digestible. The human brain, overwhelmed by information, takes shortcuts. It judges books by covers, people by first impressions, and competence by confidence. Here's the psychological mechanism most people miss. Perception creates reality through a self-fulfilling prophecy. When people believe you're competent, they give you opportunities to prove it. When they believe you're powerful, they treat you with respect that actually makes you powerful. When they believe you're successful, they want to associate with you, which makes you more successful. The skilled manipulator doesn't fight reality. They shape perception, then let perception reshape reality. Start with your personal brand. What story are your clothes telling? What message is your workspace sending? What impression does your response time create? Every detail is either building your desired perception or undermining it. Control your narrative. When someone asks how you're doing, don't share problems. Share progress. When they ask about your weekend, don't mention Netflix, mention networking. When they ask about your goals, don't reveal uncertainty. Project inevitability. Master strategic visibility. Be seen solving problems, not having them. Be seen making decisions, not questioning them. Be seen in control, never scrambling. The amateur thinks perception is shallow. The strategist knows perception is everything, because once you control how people see you, you control how they treat you, and how they treat you determines what you can achieve. Your truth is your private reality. Your perception is your public power. Guard one, master the other. This leads us directly to the next principle, one that most people find uncomfortable but every powerful person understands. Marcus was loved by everyone. Colleagues enjoyed his company. Employees appreciated his kindness. Clients trusted his sincerity. When budget cuts came and Marcus had to lay off half his team, they all turned on him. The same people who loved him yesterday called him a traitor today. Jennifer was feared by everyone. Colleagues respected her standards. Employees delivered their best work. Clients never questioned her expertise. When budget cuts came and Jennifer had to make difficult decisions, people accepted them without revolt. They knew she was capable of harder choices if necessary. Who kept their position when the next round of cuts came? Not the one who was loved. This is Machiavelli's most controversial truth, and the one that separates those who wield power from those who lose it. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Why? Because love is conditional, temporary, and self-serving. Fear is consistent, predictable, and respect-generating. Here's the psychological reality that destroys nice people. Love makes others comfortable. Comfort breeds complacency. Complacency breeds disrespect. Disrespect breeds betrayal. Fear, properly applied, creates boundaries. Boundaries create respect. Respect creates loyalty. Not emotional loyalty, but practical loyalty. The kind that survives pressure. But let's be clear about what fear means in this context. It's not about being a tyrant. It's not about cruelty or violence. It's about consequences. It's about making it clear that crossing you has a cost that people aren't willing to pay. The boss who fires incompetent employees is feared and respected. The parent who enforces consistent rules is feared and trusted. The friend who won't tolerate disrespect is feared and valued. People who are only loved have no leverage when love fades. People who are appropriately feared have consistent influence regardless of emotions. Look at your current relationships. Who takes advantage of your kindness? Who ignores your requests because they know there are no consequences? Who treats you as optional because they know you'll always be available? These people don't fear you. They don't fear disappointing you. They don't fear losing you. So they don't respect you. Start implementing consequences. When someone wastes your time, make your time less available. When someone breaks commitments, reduce their access to benefits. When someone disrespects boundaries, enforce them with actions, not words. Watch the transformation. The same people who took you for granted will suddenly become more considerate. The ones who ignored your needs will start paying attention. Those who treated you as a backup option will start seeing you as a priority. This isn't about becoming mean. It's about becoming respected. It's about teaching people that your kindness is a choice, not a weakness. That your generosity has limits. That your patience isn't infinite. Love without fear is permission to be mistreated. Fear without love is tyranny. But appropriate fear that protects appropriate love? That's power. Here's the deeper truth. People actually feel more secure around someone they slightly fear than someone they completely control. Security creates loyalty far more than affection does. Never expose weakness, because once people stop fearing your reaction, they stop respecting your position. David thought vulnerability meant strength. He'd read the leadership books, attended the seminars, and embraced the authentic leadership philosophy. When his startup hit financial trouble, he was honest with his team about the challenges. He shared his fears, his doubts, his sleepless nights. He thought this would inspire loyalty and team unity. Instead, his best employees started updating their resumes. His investors began exploring exit strategies. His competitors smelled blood in the water. Within 3 months, his company was dissolved, his team scattered, and his reputation permanently damaged. His vulnerability had become everyone else's opportunity. This is the fourth brutal lesson that modern psychology gets dangerously wrong. Showing weakness doesn't create connection, it creates targets. Every crack you reveal becomes a pressure point others will exploit. Machiavelli warned, "He who neglects what is done for what ought to be done, sooner affects his ruin than his preservation." The world isn't interested in what you're struggling with. It's interesting what you can deliver. Here's the psychological mechanism that destroys the vulnerable. Humans are hierarchical creatures. We unconsciously scan for signs of strength and weakness to determine social positioning. When you reveal weakness, you trigger others' competitive instincts, not their protective ones. Think about it. When a wounded animal shows vulnerability in nature, what happens? Predators attack. When a business shows financial weakness, what happens? Competitors move in. When a person constantly shares their problems, what happens? Others start seeing them as a liability. But here's the sophisticated part. You can acknowledge challenges without exposing weakness. The difference is in how you frame the situation. Weak framing. I'm struggling with this decision and don't know what to do. Strong framing. I'm evaluating several strategic options and will announce the decision next week. Weak framing. Business has been slow, and I'm worried about making payroll. Strong framing. We're implementing cost optimizations to strengthen our position for the next growth phase. Weak framing. I'm feeling overwhelmed and anxious about everything. Strong framing. I'm prioritizing carefully to ensure optimal outcomes. Notice the difference? Same situation, completely different psychological impact. One invites pity and exploitation. The other maintains respect and authority. Your struggles are intelligence. Sharing intelligence with potential competitors is strategic suicide. Keep your challenges private, your solutions public. Build a small inner circle for genuine support. People who have nothing to gain from your failure and everything to lose from your destruction. Everyone else gets the confident version of your story. This doesn't mean being fake or dishonest. It means being strategic about what you reveal and when. Every piece of information about your weaknesses is ammunition in someone else's hands. Watch successful people carefully. Notice how they discuss challenges, always from a position of handling them, never from a position of being overwhelmed by them. They share problems only after they've solved them, struggles only after they've overcome them. Your reputation is built on perceived competence, not relatability. People follow strength, not vulnerability. They invest in confidence, not uncertainty. Start practicing strategic opacity. When people ask how you're doing, project control. When they ask about challenges, mention solutions. When they probe for weaknesses, redirect to strengths. The moment you start appearing unshakable, people start treating you as unshakable. The perception becomes reality through their behavior toward you. But strength without timing is just noise. The next lesson reveals when to deploy your power. Rachel could have destroyed her rival's career at any moment. She had the evidence, the connections, the opportunity. But she waited. She watched. She studied patterns. Her rival was ambitious, reckless, and made enemies while climbing the corporate ladder. Rachel let her climb higher. The higher she got, the further she had to fall. Finally, when her rival was being considered for the CEO position, when the stakes were highest, when the audience was largest, when the damage would be permanent, Rachel made her move. One carefully timed revelation. One strategically placed conversation. One perfectly executed moment of truth. Her rival didn't just lose the promotion. She lost her career, her reputation, and her industry connections. All because Rachel understood that timing isn't just important. Timing is everything. This is the fifth lesson that separates amateurs from masters. Power isn't about having the biggest weapons. It's about deploying them at the perfect moment when they create maximum impact with minimum effort. Machiavelli observed, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if one must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." But timing determines whether fear creates respect or rebellion, whether love creates loyalty or exploitation. Here's the psychological principle that governs human behavior. Impact is determined not by the size of your action, but by the timing of it. A small push at the right moment can topple what a massive force at the wrong moment cannot budge. Think about market crashes. They don't happen because of a single catastrophic event. They happen when negative news hits at moments of maximum vulnerability. Think about viral moments. Content doesn't go viral because it's the best content ever created. It goes viral because it hits at the exact moment people are psychologically ready to share it. The same principle applies to personal power dynamics. Your criticism has more impact when someone is already questioning themselves. Your support means more when someone is facing opposition. Your absence is felt more when someone needs you most. Master these timing patterns. Strike when your target is overconfident. Overconfident people make mistakes, ignore warnings, and alienate allies. They create their own vulnerability windows. Offer help when someone is struggling, but before they're desperate. Desperate people remember who helped them. Comfortable people forget. Make your moves when others are distracted. While everyone watches the obvious drama, you execute the real strategy unnoticed. Withdraw support when someone expects it most. The shock creates a lasting psychological impact and teaches others not to take your loyalty for granted. Present opportunities when people are psychologically ready to receive them, not when you're ready to give them. The amateur acts on impulse. The strategist acts on optimal timing. They wait for the moment when their action will create ripple effects far beyond the initial impact. Start studying the rhythms around you. When is your boss most receptive to ideas? When are your colleagues most vulnerable to influence? When do opportunities typically appear in your industry? Document patterns. Track cycles. Notice when people make their biggest mistakes, their most desperate decisions, their most generous offers. Then position yourself to be ready when those moments arrive again. Have your moves planned, your resources prepared, your words carefully chosen. The person who controls timing controls outcomes. The person who waits for the perfect moment often achieves more with less effort than the person who acts with greater force at the wrong time. But timing means nothing if you can't control the group dynamics around you. The next lesson reveals how to divide and conquer. James walked into a room where 5 people opposed his proposal. He walked out with a unanimous vote in his favor. What happened in between was a masterclass in human psychology. He didn't argue with the group. He didn't present better facts. He didn't make a more passionate case. Instead, he systematically broke down their unity, using their own personalities against each other. First, he identified the natural divisions. Mike was practical. Sarah was idealistic. Tom was risk-averse. Linda was ambitious, and Pete was contrarian. James didn't see 5 opponents. He saw 5 individuals with conflicting motivations. To Mike, he emphasized practical benefits. To Sarah, he highlighted moral implications. To Tom, he stressed safety measures. To Linda, he mentioned career advancement opportunities. To Pete, he framed his proposal as going against conventional wisdom. But here's the genius part. He had these conversations separately, letting each person believe they had unique insight into his plan. When they reconvened, instead of a unified opposition, he faced 5 people with different understandings of what they were voting on. Mike supported it for practical reasons. Sarah supported it for ethical reasons. Tom supported it because risks were minimized. Linda supported it for career advancement. Pete supported it because it was unconventional. They couldn't oppose him without opposing each other's reasoning. This is the 6th lesson that every ruler throughout history has understood. United people are uncontrollable. Divided people are manageable. Your power grows in direct proportion to your ability to prevent others from unifying against you. Machiavelli wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." But the deeper truth is this: the intelligent ruler ensures those men never fully trust each other. Here's the psychological reality that makes this possible. People naturally compete for status, resources, and attention. Unity requires constant effort to overcome these natural divisions. Division happens automatically when those efforts stop. Your job isn't to create conflict where none exists. Your job is to amplify the conflicts that already exist naturally. In every group, notice the existing fault lines, personality clashes, competing interests, different values, conflicting goals, resource competition, attention seeking, and ideological differences. These divisions are always present. Most people ignore them or try to smooth them over. The strategist studies them and learns to widen them when necessary. Start with information control. Give different people different pieces of information. Let them draw different conclusions. When they compare notes, they'll trust each other less and depend on you more for the complete picture. Use selective praise. Compliment individuals privately for things that might make others jealous. Let it slip accidentally that someone is being considered for special treatment. Watch the group dynamics shift. Create healthy competition. Set up situations where people have to compete with each other for your approval, resources, or opportunities. Competition prevents conspiracy. Manage communication channels. Become the hub through which information flows. When people have to go through you to coordinate with each other, you control the coordination. The key is subtlety. Heavy-handed manipulation creates backlash. Skilled manipulation feels natural, inevitable, even beneficial to those being manipulated. Remember, this isn't about being evil or destructive. This is about maintaining your position and achieving your goals when facing opposition. Sometimes the opposition needs to be managed, not confronted directly. Strong leaders don't need to divide good teams working toward shared goals. But when facing coalitions working against your interests, division becomes a survival tool. Watch how this applies everywhere: politics, business, families, and social groups. The person who controls the divisions controls the outcomes, but division is just preparation. The next lesson shows how to make people chase what they can't easily have. Amanda was the most sought-after consultant in her industry. Not because she was the best, though she was excellent. Not because she was the cheapest, she charged premium rates. She was in demand because she was impossible to get. She only took 3 clients at a time. She had a 6-month waiting list. She turned down more projects than she accepted. She never appeared desperate, never chased prospects, never discounted her rates. The result? Clients are competing to hire her. Companies are increasing their budgets to meet her rates. Executives are personally calling to secure her services. Meanwhile, her equally skilled competitors, available anytime and eager to please, struggled for every client and had to constantly justify their value. Amanda understood the 7th lesson that transforms ordinary people into irresistible forces. Scarcity creates value. Availability destroys it. This isn't about playing games. This is about understanding fundamental human psychology. We desire what we can't easily have. We value what is rare. We chase what moves away from us. Machiavelli observed this in political power. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. People see your availability as a signal of your value. Always available equals low value. Selectively available equals high value. Here's the psychological mechanism that drives this behavior. The human brain uses shortcuts to determine value. One primary shortcut is social proof. If others want it, it must be valuable. Another is scarcity. If it's rare, it must be precious. When you're always available, you signal that you're not in demand. When you're selectively available, you signal that others value your time enough to compete for it. Think about the most successful people you know. Notice how hard it is to get on their calendar. Notice how this difficulty makes you value the time more when you get it. Notice how their scarcity makes you prepare more carefully for interactions with them. Now think about people who are always available. Notice how you take their time for granted. Notice how you prepare less for meetings with them. Notice how their availability actually devalues their contributions in your mind. Start implementing strategic scarcity in your life. Limit your availability. Don't respond to messages immediately. Don't accept every invitation. Don't say yes to every request. Make people wait appropriately for your attention. Create waiting periods. Whether it's for meetings, responses, or decisions, build in delays that signal thoughtfulness and demand. Rush decisions signal desperation. Turn down opportunities publicly. When you decline invitations or projects, do it in a way that others notice. This demonstrates that you have options and standards. Batch your interactions. Instead of being available throughout the day, have specific times when you're accessible. This concentrates your value and makes those times more precious. Set quotas. Like Amanda with her 3-client limit, establish boundaries on how much of anything you provide. Quotas create competition among those who want access. The key is balance. Too much availability makes you worthless. Too much scarcity makes you irrelevant. Find the sweet spot where people have to invest effort to reach you, but can still reach you when they make that effort. Watch what happens to your perceived value as you become more selective. Notice how people start preparing more for their interactions with you. Notice how they start respecting your time more. Notice how your opinions start carrying more weight. Scarcity isn't about being difficult. It's about being discerning. It's about training people that access to you has value, so they should treat it accordingly. But scarcity without emotional control is just theater. The next lesson reveals why emotions will always be your greatest vulnerability. The merger negotiation had been brutal. 12 hours of back and forth, millions of dollars at stake, careers hanging in the balance. As the final terms were being discussed, one executive lost his temper. "This is ridiculous," he shouted, slamming his hand on the table. "We're being completely disrespected here. I won't stand for these insults." His emotional outburst revealed everything. His desperation to close the deal, his fear of losing face, his lack of alternatives, his inability to walk away. In 30 seconds of anger, he destroyed 12 hours of strategic positioning. The opposing team immediately pressed its advantage. They knew they had him. Within an hour, he had agreed to terms far worse than what was originally proposed. Meanwhile, his colleague sat quietly, watching the emotional storm with calculating eyes. She took notes. She asked clarifying questions. She appeared completely unaffected by the drama. When the dust settled, guess who was promoted to lead the next major negotiation? This is the 8th lesson that separates winners from casualties. Emotions are information leakage. Every emotional reaction is intelligence you give your opponents about what matters to you, what frightens you, and what controls you. Machiavelli understood this completely. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. The moment you let emotions control your appearance, you let others control your reality. Here's the brutal psychological truth. Emotional people are predictable people. Predictable people are controllable people. When others know which buttons to push to get specific reactions from you, you become their puppet. Think about the last time someone made you angry. What did your anger accomplish? Did it solve the problem or create new ones? Did it strengthen your position or weaken it? Did it earn respect or reveal weakness? Now think about people who remain calm under pressure. Notice how unsettling their composure is to others. Notice how their emotional control forces others to reveal their emotions first. Notice how this gives them strategic advantages in every interaction. The person who controls their emotions controls the room. The person who loses emotional control loses everything else. But here's the sophisticated part. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming strategically emotional. It means choosing when, where, and how to display emotions for maximum impact. Controlled anger can be intimidating when used rarely and strategically. Controlled enthusiasm can inspire when deployed at the right moments. Controlled concern can build trust when shown selectively. The key is conscious choice versus unconscious reaction. Masters of power feel emotions but don't let emotions make their decisions. Start practicing emotional discipline. Pause before reacting. When something triggers you, take a breath, count to 3, and then choose your response instead of defaulting to your reaction. Study your triggers. What makes you angry? What makes you afraid? What makes you desperate? These are your vulnerabilities. Others will use them against you if you don't protect them. Develop neutral expressions. Practice maintaining calm facial expressions and body language even when you're feeling intense emotions internally. Use the 24-hour rule. For important responses, especially when you're emotional, wait 24 hours before responding. This prevents emotional damage to your strategic position. Channel emotions into strategy. Instead of expressing anger directly, use it to fuel more calculated responses. Instead of showing fear, use it to motivate better preparation. Watch how this transforms your relationships. Notice how people stop trying to manipulate you when emotional manipulation stops working. Notice how your composure makes others uncomfortable and more likely to reveal their own emotional states. Have you ever lost control because of anger? Share it in the comments. Because recognizing these moments is the first step to mastering them. The person who masters their emotions masters their destiny. But even emotional mastery won't protect you from the next harsh reality. Michael thought he had a perfect partnership. 5 years of friendship, shared struggles, mutual success. They had built their company together, trusted each other completely, and shared every strategic decision. Then the acquisition offer came. Michael was ready to turn it down. They had agreed they were building something for the long term. But when he arrived at the office that morning, he found legal documents on his desk. His partner had already signed the deal, alone, for terms that gave Michael a fraction of what he deserved. "It's just business," his partner said, avoiding eye contact. "Nothing personal." Michael learned the 9th brutal lesson the hard way. Everyone will betray you, not because they're evil, but because they're human. When the stakes get high enough, when the pressure gets intense enough, when their interests conflict with yours enough, loyalty becomes a luxury they can't afford. This isn't cynicism. This is preparation. Machiavelli warned, "He who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." But the deeper truth is this: the person most likely to deceive you is the one you trust most completely. Here's the psychological reality that destroys the naive. Trust reduces vigilance. Reduced vigilance creates opportunity. Opportunity plus pressure equals betrayal. It's not a character flaw, it's human nature. The closer people are to you, the more they know about your vulnerabilities, your resources, your plans, your fears. This knowledge, combined with changing circumstances, changing incentives, or changing loyalties, becomes the foundation for devastating betrayal. But here's what you need to understand. This lesson isn't about becoming paranoid or cynical. It's about building systems that protect you. Regardless of individual loyalty, smart leaders don't prevent betrayal. They make betrayal expensive and loyalty profitable. Start implementing betrayal-proof systems. Compartmentalize information. Never give any single person enough information to destroy you. Distribute critical knowledge across multiple trusted parties who don't communicate with each other. Create mutual dependencies. Structure relationships so that betraying you damages their interests too. Make loyalty profitable and betrayal costly. Maintain independent resources. Never become completely dependent on any person, partnership, or system. Always have alternatives, backups, and exit strategies. Document everything important. Verbal agreements become misunderstandings when convenient. Written agreements with witnesses become evidence. Monitor changing incentives. When people's circumstances change, their loyalties often change too. Watch for shifts in their situations that might make betraying you attractive. Build redundancy. If losing any single person would destroy your plans are too fragile. Build systems that survive individual defections. The goal isn't to live in paranoid isolation. The goal is to structure your life so that you can enjoy deep relationships without being destroyed when some of them end badly. Think about every major betrayal in history. What made it possible? Usually, excessive trust is combined with insufficient protection systems. The betrayed party had put all their eggs in one basket, and that basket eventually dropped them. This doesn't mean becoming cold or calculating in all your relationships. It means being realistic about human nature while building protective systems that let you be generous without being vulnerable. Some people will remain loyal for life. Others will betray you when convenient. The problem is that you can't tell which is which until it's too late. So build systems that protect you regardless of which category someone falls into. The person who assumes loyalty is permanent will be devastated by betrayal. The person who assumes betrayal is possible will be protected when it happens, and pleasantly surprised when it doesn't. But protection from betrayal means nothing if you don't know when to walk away. The final lesson reveals how to master the most powerful move of all. The meeting was going badly. Very badly. What started as a simple negotiation had become a humiliating power play. The other side was making unreasonable demands, ignoring her counteroffers, and treating her with obvious disrespect. Everyone expected her to fight harder, argue more persuasively, and make bigger concessions to save the deal. Instead, she did something that shocked the room. She stood up, gathered her materials, and said calmly, "It seems we're not aligned on this opportunity. I wish you success with your chosen approach." Then she walked out. No anger, no ultimatums, no desperate final offers, just a clean, professional exit. Within 24 hours, they called her back with a completely different attitude and significantly better terms. Why? Because her willingness to walk away demonstrated something more powerful than any argument could. She didn't need them. This is the 10th and most crucial lesson that separates those who control situations from those who are controlled by them. The person who can walk away has all the power. The person who must stay has none. Machiavelli understood this principle in warfare. The prince who relies entirely on fortune is lost when it changes. But the deeper truth applies to all power dynamics. Your strength is measured not by what you can endure, but by what you can abandon. Here's the psychological mechanism that makes this so powerful. Desperation is visible. Need is detectable. When others sense that you cannot or will not walk away, they lose all incentive to treat you fairly. But when they believe you might leave, their job, their relationship, their deal, their friendship, suddenly your value becomes clear. Suddenly they start working to keep you instead of working to extract from you. Think about every situation where you felt powerless. What did they all have in common? You believed you had no choice but to accept whatever was offered. You had no exit strategy. You were trapped by your own needs or fears. Now think about your moments of greatest influence. What was different? You had alternatives. You could survive without whatever was being negotiated. You had the power to say no and mean it. The exit isn't about quitting everything or burning bridges. It's about maintaining the psychological and practical ability to leave any situation that doesn't serve your interests. Master these exit strategies. Always have alternatives. Before entering any negotiation, relationship, or commitment, develop backup options. Alternatives give you confidence, and confidence gives you power. Build portable skills and resources. Invest in capabilities that transfer across situations. The more portable your value, the less dependent you become on any single opportunity. Maintain your independence. Never become so integrated into any system that leaving becomes financially or emotionally impossible. Keep part of yourself separate and self-sufficient. Practice strategic detachment. Emotional investment in outcomes reduces your willingness to walk away from bad deals. Care about results, but don't become attached to specific paths to achieve them. Set non-negotiable boundaries. Decide in advance what treatment you will and won't accept. When those boundaries are crossed, leave immediately. Develop exit signals. Know the signs that tell you when it's time to go. Repeated disrespect, declining terms, changing dynamics, and violated agreements. Don't ignore these warnings. The person who masters the exit never has to use it. The mere possibility that you might leave keeps others invested in keeping you satisfied. But here's the crucial distinction. This isn't about being difficult or unreasonable. It's about maintaining your standards and your options so that you never have to accept unacceptable treatment. Watch how this changes every dynamic in your life. Notice how people treat you differently when they sense you have options. Notice how negotiations improve when you're genuinely willing to walk away. Notice how respect increases when people know your boundaries are real. The ultimate power isn't the ability to control others. It's the ability to control your own circumstances by maintaining the freedom to choose different ones. Now you understand all 10 lessons. But understanding and implementing are different challenges entirely. You now possess knowledge that most people will never understand. 10 brutal lessons that separate those who control their destiny from those who are controlled by it. But here's what separates winners from casualties. Information without implementation is just entertainment. These lessons mean nothing if you don't dare to use them. Right now, you have a choice. You can close this video, feel temporarily empowered, and then go back to playing by the same rules that have kept you controllable. You can pretend that nice guys finish first, that hard work guarantees success, and that loyalty is always rewarded. Or you can accept the harsh reality: the world is not a fair place. It's a strategic place, and strategy, not morality, determines outcomes. The person who implements these lessons doesn't become evil. They become effective. They don't become cruel. They become competent. They don't become manipulative. They become influential. Think about where you are right now in your life. What situations are you tolerating that you shouldn't? What people are taking advantage of your kindness? What opportunities are you missing? Because you're too afraid to be strategic. Your silence can become power instead of weakness. Your reputation can become a weapon instead of a hope. Your emotional control can become armor instead of vulnerability. Your timing can become precise instead of coincidental. Your scarcity can become value instead of availability. Your ability to walk away can become leverage instead of a limitation, but only if you choose to stop playing fair in an unfair game. Machiavelli wrote these truths 500 years ago because human nature doesn't change. The same psychological principles that shaped kingdoms will shape your career, your relationships, and your future. The question isn't whether these principles work. The question is whether you have the intelligence to use them and the courage to accept the results. Every day you wait, someone else is implementing these lessons. They're taking the opportunities you're afraid to pursue. They're claiming the respect you're afraid to demand. They're building the power you're afraid to seek. Stop being afraid of your own potential. Stop apologizing for wanting control over your life. Stop pretending that powerlessness is noble. The untouchable player isn't the one who never gets challenged. It's the one who never gets defeated when challenged. It's the one who turns every attack into an opportunity, every weakness into strength, every betrayal into wisdom. You have the tools now. You understand the game now. You know the rules now. The only question left is this: will you use them? If you're ready to stop being controlled and start controlling your situation, if you're ready to stop playing defense and start playing offense, if you're ready to transform from victim to victor, type "I choose power" in the comments below. Because power isn't something you're born with. It's something you choose. It's something you study. It's something you implement, and it's something you master. One lesson at a time, one situation at a time, one strategic decision at a time, until you become untouchable. The game is already being played. The only choice is whether you're a player or a piece. Choose wisely.